It seemed like a long break between games.
No, it doesn't yet. It probably will, I guess, because it doesn't seem like we played on Friday because we didn't get back until Sunday night. So it seems like the break was from Sunday to now, but I guess it wasn't. But yeah, I guess 8 days is a long time this time of year.
You mentioned on Hawk Talk about the recent re-emphasis and reinforcement in practice as things aren't going according to your standards. Why do you think that it takes a little more prodding to get these guys where you want them to be?
Well, I don't think that we may not ever get to where we want them to be. I don't know that every team does that consistently. But I don't think that this has been a very good practice team, especially of late. I thought early in our practice sessions that this team liked to practice. They had energy and things like that. And I think this week we kind of become, even last week, maybe just not playing with the passion or the energy in practice. And we don't practice long. That's the thing. I used to practice long. Ex-players would say, "Coach, we went 3 hours every day till Christmas or whatever." And now we very rarely go over 2, ever. I mean, very rarely. I don't know what it's been, but I just feel like there hasn't been near the focus or the energy in practice that good teams have.
Is that a thing where one guy can kind of step up and set the pace for everyone else?
I actually think the last week I thought that was our problem. This week I don't think it is. I think we've had some guys step up, and sometimes you can. The thing about it is with athletics is you can try hard and still look like crap. And there's definitely a difference between competing and trying hard. Anybody try hard. You don't even get a ribbon for that. But that's the baseline, as far as just try hard. But competing is focus and concentration and, listening. And, I mean, there's a lot of other intangibles go into competing. And I don't think we've been very good at that in practice of late. But you look at us against Tennessee with 1 day scout and a 30-minute practice, that's about as good at carrying out a defensive game plan as we could possibly do. So, I know we got it in us. I just don't think the focus has been quite as good as what it should be.
Coach, I'm not sure if second chance is the right term for Lagerald coming back, whatever that word might be, coming back for a senior season. How satisfying, or is it to you to see a guy make the most of this kind of opportunity, whatever you might want to call it, second chance or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the correct term. I don't know what it would be. Maybe a total redirection of what his mindset was to what it is now. I don't know, just a revamped focus. I just see somebody that had always had talent. You guys have seen it. He's had some games in the past, even going back to his sophomore year, you think he's the best player on the floor. And last year he was the best player on our team for the first month, or almost the first month of the season, and most consistent and best. So you know what he's got inside of him. But maybe the intangibles that I was referring to earlier are more prevalent now than what they were last year. Voice, talking. He knows that it's his show now compared to the past where he knew it was, Devontae's or Steve's or Malik's, or even going the year before that, Josh's or Landon's or Frank's. I mean, so he knows now that this is more his deal, and I just think there's an energized focus that he has, maybe in large part due to that.
Whose role has changed the most from last season to this season?
Of our returning guys, I don't know that maybe Lagerald's, but I don't really know of you can't say Devon or Quentin. Marcus's really hasn't changed a ton. Mitch's hadn't changed a ton. Dokes hasn't changed a ton. You would say primarily the difference is you just have new guys that have never done it here at Kansas that have very prominent roles. So from an individual standpoint, I'd say that Gerald would probably be the biggest change from a role standpoint over everybody else. But we don't have that many returning guys of late.
I know it's only been 5 games, but what have you liked most about what Devon's done so far, and has any of it surprised you? I mean, he seems pretty consistent right now.
I would say the thing I like most is he likes to compete.
Mm-hmm.
He does have some Frank in him that way, and he like Frank visibly you could see when he was really going after someone. Devon, you can't see it quite as visible, but you look at it and study it over time. I mean, the dude likes to compete, and I would say that's the biggest thing. I really think that, and it's got me excited because if he can contain and the other team's initiator or point guard, and that's where every offense starts on every team. So I really like that. That's got me excited about him as much as anything.
Did you think he'd be to this level 5 games in?
No.
Yeah.
But I thought he could get to this level maybe before conference.
Sure.
But 5 games in, he's competed at a pretty consistent level.
Bill, I think you mentioned on your radio show you talked to Udoka. I guess what do you want to see from him moving forward?
I think that Udoka has actually gotten off to a fair start. I think that if you watched the game the other day, he got a very marginal whistle at best. But that happens sometimes when you have a reputation. And the reputation he has is pushing off and doing some different things. But how many fouls does Udoka make that's not a turnover? I mean, he very rarely fouls on defense. Most of his fouls come on offense. So that's one thing I'd like to see him improve on. The other thing is I'd like to see him where he plays to his strengths a little better. In that sometimes when he doesn't feel he's getting enough touches or whatever, he tries to do something that's a hard play for him. Whereas during the season, those aren't the times to do that as much. So I'd like to see him do a great job working on position, scoring every time he gets the ball in position to score. But if it's not there, I'd like to see him become a passer, a fanner, those sorts of things. And those are easy to fix. But I could also say the same thing about our guys on the perimeter. If you don't have it and you don't drive it, then pass it rather than hold it to let the defense reshift and get back where you're playing 5-on-5. And we do that too much as well. So everybody I'd like to see really become a better ball mover. Because he knows we're going to throw it to him, and we try to throw it to him every possession. But sometimes I think that when he does catch it and he's not in position, those are times that we don't need to waste the possession.
A couple of weeks ago, you talked about needing to be maybe a little simpler on defense, get good at one thing.
Yeah.
Have you done that in these last couple of weeks, and how much did those 2 games in New York help?
Yeah, I thought against Marquette we were terrific the first half of doing that. But the last 3 halves we have been better. Yeah, we have been better doing that. Nothing complicated, simple, basic. But let's just figure out who we are and what we do, and let's just stick with that rather than change so much.
Is that the key? What you guys have been asking of them, or have they picked things up that's allowed you to?
You know what? I think it's too. I think the sample size is too small.
Yes.
But the teams that we've had the most trouble with are the teams that really shot the 3 well. Yeah. And therefore it stretches you, and then you can drive you and stuff like that. Tennessee, that wasn't what they played to, right. So maybe that was easier for us to at least stay in the right spots. But I was most encouraged by the second half against Marquette. That's the hardest team for us to guard because we're playing big and they're playing small, and then we were still able to get to shooters and keep the ball in front of us. So that to me is the most positive thing. Now whether or not we can continue that, who knows? But that's certainly been an emphasis.
Seems like LeGerald is playing with a lot of confidence and swagger this year. How important are those things to his success?
Imperative. I mean, who doesn't play better if they have confidence and swagger? I mean, in any sport at any time. So I like that. I like that a lot. And the thing about it is that confidence is also giving him energy to play much better defensively as well.
In the past few years with Stanford, you've had to prepare for Reed Travis and how he's gone. How are they different without him, or what stands out?
Well, last year they had Reed and they had Humphreys the last 2 years. And Humphreys, Reed had a big game. But I think Humphreys had a big game against us, maybe when they played here also. But now, longer, leaner, more slashers, things like that. They've got good players. They're 4-3, and they played a really good schedule. I mean, you look at a couple of their losses; they're really good teams, and they've been away from home. But they got good young players that are going to be really good. They're young. They just got some young guys out there competing, and of course you're going to go through ups and downs when that's the case. But if you look at the most amazing stat with them, I think opponents have made 25 threes against them for the year. So that's they played 7 games, so that's 3.5, right at 3.5 a game. Think about that. So they're getting out and they're guarding the arc, and with their length they can do that. So and that's been a big part of our offense. So I'd say that's something that's pretty impressive.
Obviously, Coach played Jared now a couple times. When he comes back here, does he act like a regular alum and kind of walk around and see the changes or ask you guys? Or
no. Well, he may, but I have no idea. I hope right up until tip-off he's walking around talking to people in the stands, and that'd be great. But no, he'll come focused, and there'll be incentive obviously for them to play well here, just like there was, I'm sure, when he went back to Carolina and played earlier in the year. But I hope every time he comes back, and hopefully whether it be Jared, whether it be if Turge would ever play here, or Tad would ever play here again, or Danny, or anybody that is obviously given this university a lot. I certainly hope the fans do pay respect in the way they deserve, which I'm sure they will.
The 19 minutes that you got from KJ, what will the value of those minutes and that experience be as the season progresses?
I don't know. You could say, well, would he have gotten those minutes if Doak hadn't been in foul trouble? But the bottom line is, would we have won the game if he didn't get those minutes? And the answer may not have been. My answer may be no. So we got to find a way to work him in. But I do think there's a couple of substitutions that we have. There'll be situational type subs. The thing about it is, this is one thing that I really believe, and it's probably a reason why Mitch and David haven't played as much. When we're struggling to score, we need to play through Diedrich. I mean, that's pretty apparent to everybody when we're struggling to score. But he needs space. And if we got another big guy in the game, there's no space. So at least, KJ can kind of stretch the floor a little bit and allow him to operate inside, where he can be one-on-one some.
Marcus better?
Excuse me?
Marcus better?
Yeah, I think so. Marcus practiced yesterday and had no problem. So I Bill said he hadn't seen him yet today, but we think he is. But I haven't talked to him today. And he didn't practice yesterday. He practiced. It wasn't yesterday. We took yesterday off. It was the day before. The net, if I'm not mistaken, a net caps it at 10 points, but it also takes in consideration your OER and DER. Well, if it caps it at 10 points, but you beat somebody by 50, it still skews it because your OER and DER is based on the point differential in your wins. So you got a part of it that says, if I'm not mistaken, CJ, you could correct. You got part of it says that if you win by 10, that maxes it out. But when they look at the OER and DER in offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency ratings, when you look at those, it takes into account how of the scores. So how can it be? You can't cap that at 10. How would you do that mathematically to cap that at 10? So you could beat somebody 100-30 and lose the next game 50-40, and you're going to rate out really high because your OER could be 1.4 for one game and 0.9, which balances out to 1.15 or whatever. Whereas if you just win each game by a little bit because you're playing good opponents, then your OER is not going to be near as high and your DER won't be quite as low. Does that make sense? So I think you have to have a bigger sample size to really understand and grasp that. I was a little bit shocked when I saw the net come out and we were 11th. Not that there's anything wrong with being 11th. We've been 50th at this time of year, so that's not a big deal at all. But the reasons we were 11 were probably based on our offensive efficiency and our defensive efficiency, whereas in the past, the RPI, that wouldn't take that into effect at all. Am I right on that stuff? So over 35 games or 30 games, you think it balance out over time.
Does it concern you at all, though, that it does seem like maybe there is a skew to beating a worse team by a lot than maybe playing a good team close?
See, that you just contradicted what it's meant to do, because the appearance of it is the appearance now is that it could be, but the reality is you base your quadrant wins on where people are rated within that, but people are going to be rated within that by the net as opposed to by the RPI. So I think right now it's too early to tell, but I do think it's a little skewed right now. But you're supposed to get rewarded for playing good teams and beating them, not for playing teams and winning by a large margin. That's not the intent at all.
It'd be better if they just didn't release it for a while, the rankings, because it's an NCAA tournament evaluation tool, right? So
yes,
that's the point of it. Too early to even go there.
I don't know how it's been done in the past,
right.
so they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out, but I do not know.
How's Grimes doing since the opener when he had such a big game? What do you want out of it?
Well, he hasn't put up numbers obviously like he did in the first game. He needs to be more aggressive, and even in the first game, he made shots. I'm not sure he got to the paint and did some things that he's really good at. He's really good at his vision is terrific, and he's good at making passes to finish plays and all those things. And he hasn't been consistent doing that because he hasn't forced help as much, and it's hard to make a great pass if you don't force help in some form or fashion. So he's going to be fine. He's still further along than a lot of really good freshmen we've had, but a lot of the good freshmen we've had, they haven't had to be forced to play so many minutes. You could not play him, and we're in a situation where he needs to play. So I certainly want him to become more aggressive, but I also know that it's a process for him too.
How is Silvio kind of handling this kind of waiting process? Second in a row, he's had to have something like this.
Well, that's not, that's really not true. Because he had to wait last year, but that was no fault of anybody because he had to wait. Nobody. He got here at a certain time, and you have to get cleared, and it took, 4 games or whatever to get him cleared, and it could seem like that's frustrating, but he wasn't ready to help us, a week after he got here anyway, so it wasn't, that wasn't as big a deal. This is a bigger deal, but his attitude's been terrific. And he stayed positive, and he's working his tail off, and he's doing it by playing on the second unit because we don't know, you can't give him all the reps on the first unit. We don't know when that's going to happen, but he's getting the vast majority of his reps with the second unit. He's had a great attitude and staying very positive.
So he stays engaged. You guys don't even have to give him pep talks or anything like that. Just has the right.
Well, everybody needs a pep talk. You need a pep talk every now and then, but no, he's been engaged. He's been engaged. Yeah.
Do you know when something new will happen with that?
No, I don't have anything new to report on that at all.